1499, when the fleets of the Spanish Empire first touched the shores of this land, they brought with them a massive expectation. They hungered for gold, silver, or at the very least, lush tropical forests, teeming with resources. But what answered them was only limestone, razor-sharp thorns, and a desperate, suffocating drought. Disappointed and disillusioned, the conquerors pulled their anchors and left. Before vanishing over the horizon, they branded this place with a derogatory name, Islas Inútiles, the useless islands. But history proved they were completely wrong. The Spanish saw only the barrenness on the surface, entirely missing a perfect fracture in the Earth's crust, hiding beneath the blue water, a place that, a century later, the Dutch would see right through, turning it into a strategic chess piece that forever altered the flow of global trade. How could an island, abandoned by nature, with no natural resources, no fresh water, once deemed a land with no tomorrow, manage to reverse its fate and become one of the most multilingual, complex, and undefinable societies in the Caribbean? If you are looking for a beach to just lay back and sip cocktails, this is not the story for you. But if you want to know how humanity survives, shapes its identity, and turns a useless piece of land into a living legacy, then welcome to Curaçao. At the center of this bizarre existence is Willemstad. Unlike any other capital in the Caribbean, Willemstad is carved in half by a deep seawater channel flowing straight inland. On the eastern shore, Punda appears orderly, radiant, and prosperous. It is the flawless face the island wants to show the world. But step over to the western bank and you meet Otrobanda, which, in the local language, literally translates to the other side. A working-class neighborhood with narrower streets, where walls are covered in sprawling murals and weathered by time. Here, the pace of life slows down, raw and breathing, with the authentic spirit of the locals. Connecting these two worlds is the Queen Emma Bridge. Every time a large vessel needs to enter the port, the entire bridge swings wide open. The streams of people rushing to work or school are forced to a halt. No one honks, no one rushes. That moment of waiting serves as a perfect metaphor for Curaçao, an island constantly forced to tear its chest open to embrace the movements of the outside world. Yet ultimately, it always knows how to close back up, to reconnect and heal its own fractured pieces. Forget the picture-perfect postcards of a Caribbean sea shaded by coconut palms and serene tropical rainforests. Curaçao shatters all those romantic expectations. The surface of the island emerges bare, harsh, and scorched by a blinding sun that seems to never set. This landscape is the most brutal explanation of why this island was once written off as a wasteland. Looking down from the summit of Mount Christoffel, you witness the chilling desolation of this land. On the northern coast, at Shete Boka, the ocean doesn't sing lullabies. It roars, frantically and ceaselessly tearing at the limestone cliffs. And hidden beneath that ferocity is the cold silence of Hato Cave, a place where cracked stalactites, swarms of bats, and a few scribbled petroglyphs on the walls are the rare surviving testimonies of the Kakatio, the first indigenous people who desperately tried to cling to this soil. Curaçao is not beautiful in a soft, smooth way designed to easily please passers-by. This place is radiantly beautiful precisely because of its stubbornness, its differences, and its immortal, edgy resilience against the ravages of heaven and earth. Outsiders once looked at the surface of Curaçao and saw only a cruel deprivation. But their greatest mistake was never looking beneath the water. The truth is, the lifeline of this island does not lie on its shores. Just a few dozen meters from the arid edge, the continental shelf suddenly fractures, plunging straight down into a chasm thousands of meters deep. This geological drop creates what is known as the blue edge. Where the drought ends, the true vitality of Curaçao explodes. In this parallel world, there is absolutely no trace of barrenness. Massive coral reefs embrace the island like a millennium-old shield, nurturing an ecosystem so rich it takes your breath away. But remember, this ocean wasn't born to serve as a perfect backdrop for passing tourists. For the people who chose to anchor their lives to this land, that deep ocean is the wellspring of their livelihood, the economic heartbeat, and the greatest compensation nature bestowed upon an island stripped of everything on its surface. The ocean did not just feed Curaçao, it dictated the very destiny of this island. Located less than 70 kilometers from the coast of South America, Curaçao sits right at the jugular of the most critical maritime route between the Caribbean Sea and the Venezuelan mainland. The Spanish conquerors blindly bypassed this prime location simply because their eyes were too busy searching for gold mines that never existed. But the Dutch merchants carried a different vision. In 1634, when the Dutch West India Company set foot here, they didn't care about the arid topsoil. What they saw was Sint Anna Bay, a flawless, wind-sheltered, deep-water natural harbor, large enough to hide an entire fleet within the heart of the island. Rapidly, a barrage of fortresses, docks, and warehouses sprang up. From a limestone strip labeled useless, Willemstad rose to become the most bustling trading hub in the region. The harbor brought Curaçao ships, goods, jobs, and a relentless flow of wealth. But prosperity always demands a price, in blood and flesh. History signed a ruthless pact with this island, because the exact same body of water that saved Curaçao from the world's oblivion was also the pathway that ushered into this island one of the darkest and most agonizing chapters in human history. Behind the radiant coats of paint and the bustling life of the port city lies a truth that no amount of whitewashing can conceal. During the golden age of trade, this perfect harbor became one of the most massive transit hubs of the transatlantic slave trade network controlled by the Dutch West India Company. Inside the Curaçao Museum today, rusted blocks of iron and steel still lie, guarding the silent, agonizing memories of tens of thousands of human beings stripped of their identities and homelands, measured and traded like mere commodities. Yet, even in the darkest of years, the yearning for humanity was never broken. In 1795, from the absolute depths of suffering, an enslaved man named Tula stood up. He led thousands in an uprising that shook the island, solely to reclaim one sacred right, the right to live free. The rebellion was ultimately crushed in blood. Tula was executed, but he did not die. He transformed into an immortal symbol. Today's Curaçao is more than just magnificent travel photos. It holds fragments of memory, and those memories are still surging through the veins of its people today. It exists in the rhythm of the once banned Tambú drums, and in the Papiamentu language, distilled from pain to become the proud voice of the present. Above all, it is the legacy of resilience, the right to hold one's head high, and the right to tell the history of this land in their own words. Those heavy historical legacies are not fossilized in museums. They melt, weave, and blend into the daily heartbeat every morning. When the first sunlight touches Willemstad, the floating market is where this cultural fusion reveals itself most clearly. Here, sound is the mirror, reflecting Curaçao's identity. Local customers pick out bananas and creamy avocados, bargaining in Papiamentu, while the Venezuelan boat vendors swiftly reply in Spanish. Curaçao is one of the few places in the world where an ordinary citizen can seamlessly switch languages up to 4 times in a single morning. They study in Dutch, negotiate business in English, trade in Spanish, and pour their hearts out to one another in Papiamentu. But all these differences are bound together by a single word, douche. It is a greeting, a thank you, or the warmest form of intimacy shared between people. Under this miraculous harmony, you see the silhouettes of children chattering on their way to school, sun-baked fishermen returning with their nets, and small shops rattling open their doors. The rhythm of life in Curaçao is just like that, neither rushed nor chaotic, but it never stands still. It flows, calmly and brimming with humanity. The rhythm of life in Curaçao is not made of intangible concepts. It carries the shape and breath of real people. It manifests on the sun-baked face of the fruit vendor at the harbor. Every morning, his life is tied to the saltiness of the sea breeze, the earthy scent of fresh fruit, and his ringing calls to customers. He isn't just selling goods, he is a resilient puzzle piece, keeping the lifeblood of trade between the island and the Venezuelan mainland from ever breaking. That same rhythm surges beneath the ocean, sinking with the diver's breath. Every thrust of his spear, to eliminate this invasive species, doesn't just bring an expensive meal to a restaurant. It is a silent war to protect the coral reefs, the vital livelihood for tens of thousands of lives on the island. Back on shore, that rhythm condenses on an Otrobanda porch, where an elder sits idly by the door, calmly watching the neighborhood slowly drape itself in modern layers. She is the embodiment of urban memory, the anchor holding onto the threads of community bonds in a world that is hastily transforming. And finally, that rhythm takes the shape of the internal struggle in the eyes of the youth. With the ability to speak 4 languages and a European passport in hand, they have countless opportunities thousands of miles away. And so, every single day, they carry the greatest question of their generation: take their talents and leave for broader horizons, or stay to preserve the soul of their homeland. Over 4 centuries ago, conquerors called this the useless island, because they were used to measuring value in gold, silver, and lush forests. But they failed to understand that when pushed into the corner of harshness, humanity is forced to tear open new horizons of survival. With no resources on land, the people of Curaçao clung to the ocean. They built an economy through commerce, port services, and the hard-earned catches brought back from the deep sea. That crystal-clear water also brings a relentless stream of tourists, turning into a livelihood that feeds tens of thousands of families, from taxi drivers and divers to the small cafes tucked away in the old town. However, the greatest art of survival on this island isn't just about exploitation. It lies in the ability to turn rejected adversities into assets. The sweet Spanish oranges brought here mutated due to the arid soil and lack of water, becoming the bitter, inedible Laraja fruit. Instead of throwing away this useless fruit, the people of Curaçao dried its peels and extracted its essential oils to create Blue Curaçao, a globally renowned liqueur that carries the proud blue hue of their home sea. Or take the Lionfish, an ecological disaster with venom that devastates coral reefs. Instead of surrendering to fate, divers hunt them down, turning this invasive trash into a premium delicacy on expensive dining tables. That is the most resounding answer to the paradox of its history. The Curaçao exists and thrives not because of what nature generously bestowed. This island proudly stands on a single philosophy. True value is not found in what is readily available, but in how we learn to cherish and polish the very limitations that others have mercilessly thrown away. That pride rising from adversity is not just a dry philosophical conclusion. It explodes into shapes, sounds, and flavors in everyday life. When Carnival season rolls in, Willemstad is no longer just an ordinary port city. It turns into a surging river of color. Graceful dance steps swell to the rhythms of Tumba and Tambú, where the Papiamentu language rings out proudly in every song, transforming a painful past into the fierce vitality of the present. And when the street festivities come to a close, Curaçao's identity reveals itself quietly and profoundly, right on the dining table. Do not look at the local cuisine as a simple menu. Look at it as a historical map. Within the cheese crust of the Keshi Yena lies the remnants of Europe. In the rustic funchi cornmeal is the memory of Africa. And inside those pastechi, or empanada pastries, is the breath of the South American continent. Everything collides, harmonizes, and coexists perfectly on a Caribbean dining table. At night, when the Truki Pan food trucks light up and the smoke of grilled meat mingles with the sea breeze, the boundaries between locals and travelers are entirely erased. They stand together, sharing everyday stories, holding glasses of blue Curaçao that carry the hue of the ocean, intoxicating themselves in the passionate spirit of an island that forged its very own identity. The fierce vitality of Curaçao doesn't only burn brightly in radiant festivals, it also quietly sprouts on these simple concrete pitches. Here, dreams do not need to be planted in giant stadiums. Under the casting shadows of the afternoon sun, it only takes 2 backpacks placed down as goalposts for a match to begin. For many children on the island, wearing the blue jersey of the national team is not merely about sports. It is the burning desire to push their homeland's name beyond the confines of the ocean. When they are not busy running on land, they learn to master the sea. From sailboat races and deep dives into the ocean's heart, to the masterful survival skills of the lionfish hunting diver, the sea is both their home and the training ground that forges their willpower. Because Curaçao might be a tiny speck on the world map, but it always proves one truth. The size of an island may be limited, but the dreams of the people who grow up here never have an end. But those romantic dreams are facing a stark reality. Every morning, when giant cruise ships dock, Curaçao puts on its most bustling coat. For many families on the island, the footsteps of tourists are the lifeblood, the source of income that puts food on the table every single day. The tourism boom is placing an invisible but colossal pressure on the old town and the fragile ecosystem. Those magnificent coral reefs are both a money-printing machine and the most vulnerable living organism under the weight of human presence. Moreover, behind the glamorous facade, Curaçao remains an isolated island. They rely almost entirely on imported goods, from fuel to food. Just a minor disruption in the global supply chain is enough to push the cost of living on the island to suffocating levels. Faced with these pressures, the younger generation of Curaçao finds themselves at a crossroads. Armed with a multilingual foundation and a European passport, they always have a wide-open door thousands of miles away. Curaçao is not a postcard frozen in a glass cabinet. It is a society straining to find a way forward. This island is undoubtedly beautiful enough, radiant enough, to be desired and loved by the world. But the cruel question remains, is that beauty grand enough to create the opportunities needed to make the youth stay? Over 4 centuries ago, this island was shunned and tossed into history under the name Useless Land. The conquerors were wrong, because they only used gold, silver, lush tropical forests, and fertile soil as metrics to judge a treasure. They didn't know that the true value of Curaçao doesn't lie on its arid surface. It is hidden deep beneath the sea, in the bustling trading port, in the blending of languages, in the painful memories, and in the very will of its people to survive. Curaçao is a miraculous, multi-layered canvas. It carries the architectural silhouette of the Dutch, the liberal heartbeat and blue waters of the Caribbean. It borrows the rhythm of South America through the floating market, preserves the soul of Africa in its historic drumbeats, and conceals the ruins of its indigenous people in deep caves. Standing before that monumental convergence, Curaçao never has to force itself to choose whether it belongs to Europe or the Caribbean. It proudly exists as a world of its own, forged from fragments that seemed impossible to ever blend as one. When you pull your anchor and leave Curaçao, what remains will not just be the deep blue water or the vibrant walls in Willemstad. What remains is a question. How many places in this world were once judged as worthless, but ultimately proved that true value doesn't lie in the privileges one is handed, but in how people proudly learn to live with their most ruthless limitations?